morning. It's a bit gloomy, but we are here yet another lovely Saturday. I was trying to do a video, like a reminder video. I put it on TikTok. I put it on Instagram as well. Just so that everyone could join in. So when I recorded the video, I said it's almost 8 minutes. By the time I posted the video, it was 2 minutes to 11. Oh, so the video is out there anyway. So I think, yeah, if you haven't grabbed a drink, do so. Get comfortable. I've got mine over here. I'm going to be taking it really easy. I had an intense week, yeah, and I was a little bit under the weather for most of the days. But thank goodness I am hale and hearty and able to discuss a beautiful topic that I have lovingly and prayerfully prepared for us to learn from. So, yeah, grab a drink. Hopefully, I intend to keep this relatively short, but I also intend to share everything that I've prepared because next week we're going to be looking at another attribute of a good friend, taking from the inspired by the book of the Acts of the Apostles. So just gonna share this link 1 second. Hey, what have I done? Okay, thought I turned off the video. YouTube has made some adjustments to their layouts, and I'm not quite enjoying these ones, honestly. We're just gonna have to continue. So, yeah, hope you can see me and hear me okay. Yeah. Try to use some additional lighting, natural lighting. I think I quite like it. Anyway, I need to start. So, last week, we started this interesting series, Acts of Friendship. First of all, I'm gonna have to say it's about 19 days to our women's well-being and community gathering here in Manchester. It's unreal. We have worked hard, to put everything together. We have special volunteers that have come through, incredible ladies. The venue is set. The speaker is also set and ready. She's a mental health expert and she'll be taking us through some transforming experiences for those of us that will be joining. So, Women in Manchester is an opportunity that you don't want to miss. The energy in the room is going to be different. And I want you to benefit from this experience and to celebrate with us as well. This is the first of many, and we know we're going to get better as time goes on. There are a few more things we need to make the day a reality. There's a special segment that's been organized that will be towards the end, and I can't tell you what it is because you only have to find out when you attend. It is special, but in order for that to be a reality, we have set up a crowdfunding page, and the link is everywhere on our social media. It's on LinkedIn, it's on Instagram, it's on TikTok. So it's also on YouTube. I think I posted in the last video. So please, if you would like to be part of this vision, if you want to support us in any way, go ahead and click on that link. Also, if you haven't registered, it's a free event. Everything is completely free, but registration is required. So you can go to Eventbrite. The link is there as well, but you can also search on Eventbrite, Jewels of Faith or Women's Wellbeing and Community Gathering. It will come up immediately for you to be able to register. So if you have a sister, a friend, your mom, your auntie, adult women of all ages are welcome. So we would love to see you there. So last week, we started looking at this series I titled Acts of Friendship, inspired by friendship lessons from the Acts of the Apostles. And one key attribute that we looked at was intentionality last week. Intentionality in the way that they chose their friends, intentionality in the way that they acted towards one another, the way that they prayed, intentionality in the way that they carried on with themselves because they entrusted their friendships and that part of their life to God. What I found in my own life and many people was that I felt that I needed to entrust into God things that I thought I couldn't handle. So I regarded myself as being able to handle many things. Now, God gives us the capability to handle things, but not outside of Him. So ever since I decided to surrender completely to God and also relinquish control over my relationships with to God, it has been a life-changing experience for me. It has been so one of the prayers they prayed about in the scripture that we looked at, Acts 2, it was like, God, you see everyone's heart. And then that is something that I started to pray. And believe it or not, the results are mixed, but I know that it's for my good because you might genuinely like someone and be your best self, be sincere, but that might not necessarily be their own heart towards you. And sometimes it might not be that they are just bad people looking for people to be insincere with. It might just be that there are a lot of things that they need to work through themselves and attributes that they need to resolve within themselves in order for them to be a good friend to you. So when you pray that prayer and you're intentional about who you let come into your life and who you do not let come into your life, allowing God to take control of that, that shows that you're not only intentional about the people that are in your life, because now you're able to give them the best of yourself. Just a bit warm. I'm going to take this off. You're able to give them the best of yourself, and you're also able to receive the best kind of people. Yes, you are connected. Thank you for joining. Good morning. How are you today, Mom? Oh, wow. It's lovely to have you on the call, on the video, on the live, on this. So, today we're going to be looking at generosity. And we're going to be looking at it through the lens of deeply. We're going to be looking at it deeply as much as I can cover within an hour because I've been doing a study on it. Many times when people hear generosity, they quickly think of material generosity. So generosity is in 3 dimensions. Could be more, but I've prepared 3. Material generosity, which has to do with like charity, money, food, shelter, all the likes. And time and attention, which has to do with actively listening to someone, being present, mentoring, all of that. And then there's emotional generosity, which is practicing forgiveness, offering encouragement, extending grace without keeping score. When people hear generosity, they always think about giving. Now, they always think about giving from the stuff they no longer need, or giving from surplus, or giving from waste, even. And that is not generosity. So, one particular story. Now, there are lots of examples of generosity. If you look at the book of Acts, how people sold their lands to support the needs of others. Obviously, the Christians at the time, they were just trying to preserve themselves, so they were together and they were selling their possessions in order for them to be together. And that's where you have and people were really sincere with one another. And that's where you have somebody, a certain man, because he was not part of the Christians. So people always think, oh, why did this happen among them? No, if you see where it's written, it always says, believers, they stay together. But when it came to talking about Ananias and Sapphira, they said a certain man. So clearly he must have heard what was going on and thought, okay, let me see how I can be a part of this. So clearly the heart was not in the right place. And that ended in him losing his life, and same with his wife. So that is not generosity. You might say, oh, well, what he gave, yeah, but was it where was it coming from? It was like a dubious kind of giving. So generosity does not just mean giving people things just because you want to come off a certain way, or you want to benefit from how you'll be recognized because you have given and or because of all these other things. Um, no, that's not what it is. So I'll go more into it anyway. But for us to understand this in the context of this series, Acts of Friendship, we're going to be looking at the life of Cornelius. Now, Cornelius was a Roman soldier now, and he was very generous. The Bible records that he gave to the poor, he gave to everyone really, and he was very prayerful. So he had a few attributes. He was prayerful, God-fearing, generous, not just in alms, now in opportunities and all of that. We'll go into that. So now he gave so much so that an angel came to him and says, Cornelius, and well, that part made me laugh. I said, Cornelius, and he was like, what is it, Lord? So, but it says, your prayers and almsgiving, have come up as a memorial to God. God noticed his generosity. And that was where God asked him to send for Peter to come and preach the good news to him. So generosity doesn't go unnoticed by people and by God. That's why when people give to be recognized, give to receive accolades, give to be seen, it's always almost a waste of time, because the very first thing that matters is the heart posture. Remember, we talked about that intentionality. And I always talk about that anyway, about your heart posture when you're doing something being the key thing. So now, anyways, the story, I'm going to continue the story. So after that, the Lord also gave Peter a dream, a revelation, a vision. It was a vision where different animals, were on a sheet, and the Lord asked him, rise up and eat. And he said, no, they were unclean. And that happened about 3 times. And God said, you can't call unclean what I've called clean. So Cornelius' giving was what caused God to give Peter that vision in order to confirm the word that he had given to Cornelius. So told him, somebody's going to, you're going to have to go and preach the word to somebody, and they're going to look for you. Everything explained what he had to do, which is what he had told Cornelius. As Peter was wrapping up that vision, they said 3 men or 2 men were looking for him. And they were from Cornelius, saying, we have been invited to ask you. Now, the information that he received was so precise that he told them exactly where Peter was. So, anyways, after this, Peter invited them in as his guests, and they spent time, and then they went back to Cornelius's place. Now, Cornelius was not only generous in giving alms that it provoked this encounter and this visitation. When he had sent for Peter, he took out his time to invite his friends and loved ones. And they all stayed together, everyone that, he cared about or that knew him, just to receive this good news from Peter. He didn't think that he needed to hide this encounter or hide, because he knew it was good news. He was a God-fearing man. And he knew that this is something that everyone needed to hear, and he didn't hoard. He didn't hesitate to bring them up together. So he was not just generous in alms news, he was also generous with opportunities. Sometimes you have some people giving you from their waste or giving you from what they no longer need, but will never tell you about an opportunity that will benefit you if it hasn't already benefited them. That is not generosity. Some people are willing to give you, provided it doesn't improve you beyond their own capacity. But at this point, Cornelius didn't really know what was going to become of that meeting with Peter. He only knew it was going to be good. So whatever it was, let's all be ready. They all prepared their hearts. That's what the Bible said. Now, when Peter got there, Peter preached to them, and the Holy Spirit fell upon them, and and then they were all got baptized So this is also God giving liberally for that. For there was a change in perspective in the way that Peter perceived generosity. I'll go into more detail on that as I proceed. But I just wanted to tell us this story for us to lay a foundation of where I'll be drawing the lessons and the inferences on generosity when it has to do with friendships and relationships. Because it's impossible to be a good friend if you are not generous, and it's impossible for you to experience the best of someone if they are not generous to you materially, if they are not generous to you with their time and attention, if they are not generous to you emotionally, if they lack the capacity to forgive, if they do not offer encouragement but only take, and if they always keep score of everything. So if you are giving someone money and you never want to speak to them and you call them your friend, you are really not generous. It has to, for generosity to be holistic, it has to cover these three dimensions and maybe even more. So those people close to Cornelius had the life-changing opportunity because they were connected to him. And that still goes on to talk about, who you are connected to, right? You imagine being connected to Cornelius and then look at the life-changing, they were a part of people that changed history. Cornelius could have kept it to himself, but he didn't. And perhaps God knew that he was a generous man. And obviously with everyone gathered, that means the whole city. He did not care about so many things, which we're going to talk about. He was generous through and through, not looking at language, barrier, culture, none of that. Even Peter, that came to preach to him, learned from his generosity. A generous person operates in an abundance mindset. Cornelius did not have the perspective that, oh, what if this thing falls on this person and doesn't fall on me? Many times people go through life thinking of survival for themselves, which is a natural human instinct, but in the sense that you don't think that there is enough to go around. Especially if you call yourself a believer and a Christian, there is enough. One person's gifting or success or one person's journey in improvement in receiving something does not mean that your own will be stunted. Cornelius understood the abundance mindset. You might argue he was a Roman official, he had money. But what about this good news that he did not know exactly what it was going to be? He only knew it was going to be good, and he did not hesitate to bring people in on the opportunity. I saw a post that Haley made. Everyone, I love Haley, Melinda. So I always refer to her book and her content and all of that. And there was something she posted. She said, not every opportunity is for you. Some opportunities are for you to refer your friends to. So that it still has to do with, generosity in opportunities, which Cornelius understood. So abundance mindset is key to generosity. Nobody that is operating in a me first survival scarcity mindset can be a generous person. They might be given a lot materially, but if we look deep into that and find out the reason why, then you will realize that if you look into that and find out the reason why and see that is more or less an exchange, not just because they care about the well-being of others, you find out that they are not really generous even if they've given a lot of stuff materially. And same goes for time and attention and all of that. So now, generosity is not only about money, it's about giving gifts. Did you know that there's such a thing as a selfish gift? I've just described that. If somebody is giving a gift so that they can be recognized, so that you can thank them and they can feel good about themselves, it's not about whether you need it or not. It's not about your well-being. It's just about what they get from you by giving you that gift. That is not a generous gift. You're not being generous when you do that. So many people focus on material generosity alone, and they lose out, right? So for generosity to be complete, it has to encompass all three, as we've looked at the story and the example in the life of Cornelius. But it's not just material generosity. And so when you focus on one over the other, you will not have fulfilling friendships because you'll be focusing on one thing over the other. I did some research about this, and these insights are very interesting, especially relationally, and I'm going to share them with you. So they are from the Greater Good Science Center. And they said a few things about generosity, especially from the emotional dimension. If you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I am big on understanding your emotions and how they relate to your existence, your relationships. I actually have a book called Sounds and Emotions, which was my own journey into being able to understand my emotions and name them and not run away from them when they feel intense, and understand that I can walk through them with God. God put them there for a reason. Your emotions are a signal. You don't have to camp and stop there. And none of them are bad or good. You just have to understand where they are pointing you to. As far as we're on this earth, we are all developing and growing. So if there's a particular emotion that you feel and you don't necessarily understand, or you are uncomfortable with, is an invitation to more inner work for you to be able to be a better person. So emotionally, I'm going to be talking about generosity, not particularly on the emotions, but I'll go through that and compare it, no, in and reference the story that the inspiration is drawn from, which is the life of Cornelius. So the Greater Good Science Center says that generosity is giving good things to others freely and abundantly. If it's not free, if it's not done freely, it's not being generous. So it includes like your attention, your aid, which is obviously material if you're able to. Even the Bible says, don't tell someone, come back tomorrow for something you can do today. Encouragement as well, emotional availability. I had an experience in a friendship and a relationship that I was part of, and I'm quite a good listener, so I would listen and offer support and all of that. And as much as I was going through a tough time, the person was also going through a tough time. So my own thinking was that, okay, I'll listen to you and you listen to me, and, we'll heal and grow together. What I got to realize was I would listen and offer encouragement. The moment I open my mouth to try to say something, her attention is already onto something else. So it's more like I've poured out on you, and so initially, okay, well, but I think one day I just, I was about to say something, and no, she had said something and I listened, and I think I was about to just say something and just for someone to listen to me, and she had started doing something. I think I was like, can't you listen? Obviously, it's been a journey into coming to that point where I would probably say what I need to say and not let it get to the point where I snap. So I was like, oh, can't you listen for a minute? But this has been months and months of listening without ever hardly, even if I manage to say something, I'll just say it and there will be no focus or feedback, and it's just straight on to, so I need to tell you this as well. So it was really a heavy situation to be in, to be honest. But I didn't realize that because I didn't understand the emotional aspect of engaging deliberately in a friendship in that manner. So emotional availability is actually generosity, is a generosity, social generosity, as a matter of fact. So in Cornelius' case, right, he obviously stepped out of his comfort zone. Roman soldiers and Jewish civilians stayed rigidly separated at that time, but he broke the barriers by inviting Peter. He opened up his heart and listened intently. I don't think he would have been the only one that would have gotten a vision to invite the apostles, but it takes a certain kind of person to say, this is good news I need to hear, and I'm going to do what I need to. I'm going to do what I need to do to hear it, irrespective of who I think I am. There are some people that feel like maybe because they're older than you, or I don't know, whatever they have in their minds, they feel like they always have to be the one like telling you something and that you can't say anything to them. But if the relationship is going to be a good relationship or a good friendship, of course, this friendship can be even between people. You can have a family member that is your friend. So, it has to go both ways. That emotional availability is there. Some people are just interested in pouring out and talking, that they don't actually care what you think as far as they've told you what they need to tell you. And if you're like that, just, God, ask God to help you. Like, for you to have wholesome relationships, it needs to go both ways. So emotional availability is generosity, and Cornelius exhibited that, stepping outside of your comfort zone to be fully present and vulnerable with others. I struggled with being vulnerable with others most of my life, but I do realize that in some instances, if you don't actually know what you are feeling, you don't know whether you are being vulnerable or not. So being in touch with your own self also helps you to be able to offer emotional availability, because you know what emotion that the person might be experiencing. So people need that, and your relationships need that. And if your friendships are going to be wholesome, you both need to be emotionally available to each other. I'm going to continue and I get to the point of burnout, but let's keep on. The second point is abundant sharing of focus and attention. Now, generosity means giving people your focused attention and proactively inviting them to positive experiences. When Cornelius received this divine message from an angel, he didn't hoard the spiritual insights. He poured out his social capital and focus to ensure that people he loved were in the room to hear life-changing messages around him. How many of you have received life-changing messages, maybe not particularly about salvation, even about your salvation? Have you really told all your friends about Jesus? It was a bit of a challenge for me, because I have friends I love very much that from, other faiths, but I did send invitation out, and I know it's off my plate, and I can only continue to intercede. But many times we feel like you want to experience the goodness of God by yourself. You don't want to share it, or even in terms of maybe, I'm going to this place. I don't know if you would love to come. It's going to be a positive experience. Many times people want to go there and then not share it with other people. Now, someone else might say, oh, well, I don't know how it's going to be, so I want to go and find out first. Well, that's where the vulnerability comes in. Cornelius took this chance. He didn't know what the news was going to be. He only knew that if it's come from God, it's going to be good. So we might as well wait. And I don't think that everyone, maybe there would have been some people he invited that didn't come, but I believe that he extended the invitation as much as he was able to. So do you actively invite your friends to positive experiences, or do you hoard your positive experiences to wait to see if they work out before telling your friend about it, because you're worried that, it might go wrong, or you're worried that there won't be enough to go around? It's still about the whole scarcity thing. There are good things enough to go around for everyone. So why not call your friends into any positive experience, job opportunities, anything at all? There's a friend that that I have, and I've just only known her for a short time, but I really love and respect her. And one of the things, we were trying to go into new roles, job wise together, and she started sending me opportunities and telling me about, oh, check this place, check that place. And I was just like, well, this I was so moved by that, because many people would rather not tell you about any opportunity until they get it, for whatever reason. But obviously you would practice discernment and all. But if this is your friend, this is someone that you love, someone that's close to you, there is no need for you to hide a positive experience from them. Number 3 is deliberate in-group expansion. So psychological research shows that human beings naturally prefer to help their own in-group. However, true generosity actively expands who we consider to be part of our group. I was saying to a friend during the week that, ever since moving over to England, I noticed that a lot of people keep to themselves. Like this, similar people move together so much so, like, but whereas being originally Nigerian, it's not like similar people don't move together, but everyone wants to stand out more than fit in. So it's a bit of a different kind of scenario. And many times people struggle to relate to people of a different group, even though this is quite a multicultural society. And it takes a certain kind of person to look beyond that, a generous person to look beyond that. And so, looking at Cornelius's life, obviously, he used this opportunity, a privilege, to advocate for, subjugated Jewish community. He had the resources. He was giving them financial arms. He created a unified space where everyone was considered worthy of receiving God's blessings. So are there some people that think that God's blessings is for them and not for you? I've had an experience before where we're all waiting for God's blessings. We're all waiting for actually a new job. But when I got the job first, it actually caused an end to that relationship. And I did not expect that to be the case. So you might actually think you're a generous person, but how would you react if what you desired, your friend got what you desired before you? Will you consider them your enemy? That shocked me to my bone marrow, and it took the grace of God to heal me. But it's still part of the whole thing. Abundance mindset. Do you think that because someone has an opportunity, then you will not get the opportunity? Cornelius wasn't bothered with that. And that explains why he was so wealthy anyway. He had an expansive mind, all for everyone, as far as it pleases God. Let's go. So, the thing that his generosity did was not just only help those around him, but also it helped the great apostle Peter to shift his perspective, because Peter only considered generosity as a thing among the Jews. But when he saw this, the Bible actually says that he now knew that God was for everyone. This is my paraphrase. So I said, Peter was forced to accept that God had completely bypassed the traditional religious gatekeeping. Like many of us, Peter had the us and them mentality. Yes, I find that mentality as well, especially even in the church as well. And it's just like, oh, us and them. No, God is for everyone. The Bible does say in Matthew 5:4, he makes the sun rise on the wicked and the good. He makes the rain fall upon the upright and the wrongdoers. If we want to be like God, then we need to be generous through and through to everyone. Imagine if God decided that the rain will fall on only the righteous. So can be working with someone and there will only be a halo or like a flood-like kind of stage light on you, and then the person will be in darkness. What kind of world would this be? So Peter had that us and them mentality, and sometimes we might find ourselves slipping into that because we're all human. But if we remember that, okay, we are like God, and God is generous, God shows mercy to everyone, God loves everyone, then there is a certain kind of outlook and a heart posture that we will have when it comes to do with generosity. So you want to be a generous friend. If you have ever had a stingy friend, you you know that it's not an easy life. When I was in secondary school, there were quite a number of people that were considered stingy for whatever reason, and they didn't have an easy life. And I can remember lots of, like, obviously as kids, we're not, being the best. We'll make fun of them and all of that. And it must have been a tough place to be, but it just comes from that thing of thinking that there is nothing. There is not enough, so I have to hold on to. There is not enough, so why should this person have it? If this person has it, then that means I won't have it. That is not a generous mindset. You might buy a flamboyant, expensive gift for the person. If your heart is not geared towards the well-being of that person, but your own praise and accolade, you're not being honest, and you are not. Can I just say in 2 words that breaking barriers, reaching out makes sense? Absolutely. Thank you so much. True. Breaking barriers and reaching out makes a world of sense, and it comes from an abundance mindset, because reaching out to and giving to people that you think that you can't necessarily relate to, but oh, God loves them because they're people, so let me reach out. It stretches you in a way that you can't recall. As a matter of fact, when you engage in generosity, like pure generous actions, you are never the same person again after that. I love to listen to Alexis. I learn a lot from her, from her channel about Feminine Glow channel, and she says something. She has this concept. She talks about like the rubber band concept. When you expand yourself and do something beyond your ability, it is stretching at the time. It's difficult, but you can never recoil back to how you were before, and that's how you become more expansive, and you an abundance mentality and you live an abundant life. Basically, you can't live an abundant life focused on what someone else has, or focused on what you don't have. You live an abundance life going after what you have and seeing yourself as someone that already has and not someone that is looking for. And besides, if the Lord is your shepherd and you do not want, then you have all that you need. This is something that I've been asking myself recently. What would I do differently if I knew that I was provided for? So being generous as a believer comes from knowing that your needs are met and God has provided for you. And I've had temptations in the past weeks not to be as generous as I would love to be. And one of the times I just say, oh, well, if I own nothing, I can lose nothing. So I'm going to give it anyway. And then that it's just been a journey. So even in 2 Corinthians 8 verse 3, Paul commended the Macedonian church for giving beyond their ability. So they gave themselves. They were begging for the privilege to give. They were giving out of deep poverty. So it's not like they had so much. So when someone has a little and they're not able to give you out of it, and then they have so much and then they're like giving, and you say, oh, the person is generous. No, not really. No, it's not about the quantity. And so they gave, there's a version of the Bible that actually says they gave beyond their ability. They were given to the church in Jerusalem, people that they had never, ever seen. So it's easy to give to someone that gives to you, and then it's tit for tat. What about someone that you know cannot give to you? That's exactly what Cornelius was doing. He was just ready to give. So I've asked you that question. I want you to ponder, what would you do differently if you knew you were provided for? If you knew that the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. If you really, really, truly believe that you lack nothing because the Lord was your shepherd, what would you do differently? Who would you give to? How much of your time would you give? How much of your resources would you give? This is not something that, this generosity concept and subject is not just something for today or just to check box. You might actually be already a generous person. I would consider myself one, but I still know that I could be more generous. As far as we're here, we're stretching, we're improving. So this is something I've had to tell myself, especially during this season, preparing for our events and so many things going on in life. And I have to tell myself, no, I am provided for. So how does a provided for person act? Yeah, so moving on, generosity goes beyond mere charity. It represents the core attitude of abundance and a desire to enhance the well-being of others around you. I've learned emotional generosity and listening more. Awesome. Thank you. I love your comments. They are so encouraging and so inspiring as well. And I'm thankful to have you all on the call. Thank you, everyone. So generosity goes beyond charity, representing the core attitude of abundance and a desire to enhance the well-being of others around you. So if you're being generous to someone, ask yourself, why? Are you being generous so they can clap for you? Are you being generous so you can tell people that you were generous to them? You get people like that. So no, I was one that gave her that. I was like, no, you're not being, I don't know what that is, but that's not generosity. So generosity is also the readiness and willingness to freely share time, money, resources, or kindness. So there are words I want to stand out to you. 3 words now: readiness, willingness, freely. God loves a cheerful giver anyway, says that in scripture. So if you have to cajole you and beg you and convince you and preach to you to give, and you end up giving, even if you gave a whooping sum, that was not generously given. And you want to be generous. You want to be someone that understands the abundance that they walk in by choosing to walk with the Lord. It's a journey for all of us. But that desire to learn and want to be that generous person is available, and God can teach you. There was actually a book I read. Let me see. Am I getting... Anyway, I don't know where. It's somewhere here. I think because I didn't plan to bring it out. So there was actually a book I read at the beginning of the year, A Generous Life. Let me try to find it. Oh, I'm using it for my ring light stand. Sorry. So it's titled A Generous Life by Gunnar Johnson. Let's see if I can bring it up. Mm, hang on, guys. Good. Okay. Ah, this has altered my view a little bit, but can you confirm if you can still see me clearly, hear me clearly, please? Whew. Gonna have a drink of water. Okay, thank you, Amy. So this is the book here. It's titled Generous Life Journey, The Road to Financial Freedom. So I read it at the beginning of the year. Thank you. Oh, hey, it's an exciting day. Thank you. So thank you, Reverend. So I read it at the beginning of the year, and it shifted my perspective on a lot of things. And so what am I saying is that the readiness and willingness is really important in generosity. And it's not only about your money, it's about your time, it's about your resources, about your kindness. So now I'm going to bring in a balance to this, right? You want to be the ultimate holistic friend, a friend that combines material generosity and emotional generosity. Material generosity including resources, time, practical aid. Emotional generosity including attention, presence, forgiveness, and so on. You want to combine the two. You know, some people, they can give you their time, but they will never really offer you real assistance if you need it. You don't want to be that friend. And if you have a friend like that, you want to reassess. Setting boundaries. Now, as far as there will be generous people, there will always be takers. And as much as you want to be a generous person and you want to give sacrificially, I've given that example, you also want to set boundaries in your relationship so that you're taking advantage of. God has given us wisdom. And when we apply wisdom in our generosity, that is where God gets the glory. So setting boundaries, right? Many people set different boundaries. I'm just going to give you a few examples, especially looking at, the material, the emotional, and the time and attention that I listed at the beginning. So some people set budgetary boundaries, for instance. That's one that I have been learning recently. They say, okay, I've set my budget. This is a budget that I have. This is my budget for giving. And then they stick to that budget. There was an experience I had, I think last year or so. I was speaking to someone and she was like, oh, things are a bit tight. I don't know, I don't have any money. And I was so moved. Like, so I even I myself, I wasn't exactly having a lot in the bank at the time, but I thought, oh, this person must be struggling. So out of what I had, I kind of like said, okay, here you go. And then I think later on in the conversation, like, I'm just on track to making sure I save 50K. So when I heard that, I was like, okay. So, but what I got to learn from that was this: budgets, right? The person had budgeted that this is what they'll be spending, this is what they'll be saving, and all of that, like most people do. So maybe this is as an assumption. Maybe out of the spending money, that was where it was low. But I was so moved immediately when I heard I don't have, and I went from my own reserve. So you want to practice discernment so that you don't give all your money to someone that says, oh, thank you, I'm just on track to, gain $1 million benchmark. While you have $1 left because you're giving them all your money. Anyway, God will replenish you. So some people set budgetary boundaries for material giving. You can practice that if that's what you want. But the thing about budgetary and financial, God is working with us in a different way. So you can be in a season in your life where you're learning, sacrificial giving and whatever. So I just want to put that out there that it might be different for you. You might get a prompting in your heart to empty your account, whatever it is. That's your journey. It's not going to be like that permanently. It's a journey for the time being. But if you're not there and you're just wondering, some people are always asking me for money. They're always taking advantage. At the end of the day, I fall short. You might want to set a budgetary boundary so that you don't get taken advantage of, and you have enough for yourself, and you are still able to give because you need to give. So another is focus boundaries. So protect your undivided attention. You cannot be emotionally available 247. Generously offer a specific time. So the thing with being emotionally available is that there's a quote. Oh, my girl Alexis, she has really changed my life. I think I started listening to her 3 years ago. If you're a woman, you can check out her channel, Feminine Glow. So she says, think about your mind as really expensive real estate, and not everybody can afford it. There are some places that, if you don't even have a certain amount, they won't even show you any land there, not to talk more of you buying. So think about your mind and your heart like that. If you're giving your time and attention to someone, they are taking up space from your heart and mind. So you want to be emotionally available to people you care about, but don't allow yourself to be burned out. Some people will dump on you. I gave my experience at the beginning. They will dump on you. They don't want to know what you have to. They don't even know they don't even want to know what you have to say about what they have told you. Can you believe that? So you have to be wise enough to know, give your time, because you should be emotionally available to people you care about, but also understand. Also, some people will never take your feedback. They will ask. A friend of mine was talking to me. She's like, I don't understand why this person keeps telling me the same thing. She never listens. Why she's telling me this for me to advise her? So having gone through such journey, I told her, no, sometimes people are not telling you things for you to advise them. They're just telling you because they just want to dump on you. So you now have to determine what portion of your time you're going to allocate for that. So what you can lovingly say is, maybe we could catch up about this at 7. So you plan that you give them maybe 7 to 7:30, and then you withdraw. That real estate is expensive. Not anyone can build on your mind. Think about it that way. So mutual expectation is another boundary, right? So real friendship should feel like a two-way street. Now, there's, in my opinion, and personally, realistically looking, there's nothing like 50-50. So don't measure that, oh, I gave you 30 minutes yesterday, you have to give me 30 minutes today. That is not a friendship. I don't know what that is, but that is not a friendship. So, but there should be, mutual connection, as a matter of fact, if you find out that, you're the only one being vulnerable, or you're the only one, you should ask some questions. And that's something that I had to learn as well. Like, if I'm not coming, I would, maybe in terms of friendships in the past, I would just say, well, I can't deal with this. I just like fizzle out. But obviously, thank God for growth and maturity. One of the things I actually did, I think 2 or 3 years ago, I was so proud of. I was telling someone about it, and I am still super proud of it. So there was someone I used to know. We went to school together, but we were not particularly friends in school. And then we kind of started talking. There was just this mutual, Instagram respect, so to speak. So during that time, we got each other's numbers and just started to talk and all of that. And then, I was going through a bit of a difficult time. I didn't actually tell her the nitty-gritty of the whole thing, just a bit of, okay, maybe just in case you reach out to me and I'm not available, I'm going through this is that. So anyway, she shared a video about something that and then she says, oh, this is what she wants. But what she was saying she wanted was different from what she was implying, and it was somewhat derogatory. So I was like, do you know that what you want is actually derogatory? Like, that's not what it means. As quickly as she could, she brought up what I had told her I was struggling with and used it as a weapon. So now I wasn't really hurt per se by what she did, what she had said, because I didn't really tell her what I was going through in detail. But I just knew that this was not a relationship that I wanted to continue, because if she didn't really know me that well, but the little that she knew about me, she thought she could use it as a weapon against me. So my proud moment, I just said, oh, well, I don't understand why you're saying this, but if there's any way I've offended you, apologies, but I'm not interested in proceeding with this level of intimacy in this relationship anymore. So she apologized. I said, yeah, apology accepted, but that was just it for me. And maybe try to keep in touch a few times, which I did keep in touch, but I didn't want to engage in any additional discussion. I was so proud that I set that boundary. I'm not available I don't want to have this level of intimacy in this relationship with you, in this friendship with you. I wouldn't have said that in the past. I would have just disappeared. So sometimes setting boundaries can be difficult, but they will change your life. Because the moment you set one boundary, especially when it has to do with mutual expectation in a relationship that you care about, a friendship that you care about, okay, I expect you to do this. I expect you. If the person is not doing it, that means they don't want to do it. But then you've expressed your need, and now you know what is your boundary and what is not your boundary, so that you can actually give fully to the relationships that matter to you. Otherwise, you just be carrying like resentment, and there's no longer generosity because it's no longer coming from a good place. It's no longer coming from a well-being of that person. It's coming from guilt. It's coming from shame. So as I wrap up, just a few questions for you. I also created a free resource for you to do an assessment of your generosity, what aspects that you need to improve on. We are all improving, so don't think that this is calling you out on being stingy. And nobody is too poor to give, and nobody is too rich to give. At every point in time, you have something to give. If you don't have something to give materially, you can give your time, emotional availability. You can give your risk. You can give attention. You can give prayers. There is always something to give for the people that in your life to feel like you value them. And if you're not a generous friend and you're expecting generous friends to come your way, you might be waiting for the rest of your life. Okay, so our questions, please put in comments if you have anything to say. I'm enjoying the comments, and I was enjoying the previous comments. I appreciate you all. So as we wrap up with these questions, right? So ask yourself, right? So what is my default giving style? Do you find it easier to grab a gift or actually sit through a conversation with somebody and be present? Not sit through a conversation and press your phone, or sit through a conversation thinking of what you're going to reply to the person instead of actually actively listening to them. What's your default giving style? Do you just say, well, let's just buy them a gift and nothing wrong with gifts. All of them are necessary. I said that initially. It starts with giving. Let me just read it out again. Attention, aid, encouragement, emotional availability. So don't just think I'll give my emotions and they won't see my one penny. No, that's not being generous. So where am I holding back? This is a big one. Many of us hold back because of past experiences, but don't let your past define you. God actually has given me this word over and over again, and I'm going to give it maybe for someone. Remember not the former things, for I'm doing a new thing. God is there. There are 8 billion people now we have in the world. So don't let one terrible friendship experience or breakup stop you from experiencing the goodness and even experiencing yourself. Because remember, I said last week that different people, different kinds of relationships. I talked about, your allies, your associates, your friends, all of that, different aspects of you. So if you hold back from making new connections, there might be an aspect of you that it's not going to be ignited or it's not going to manifest without your relationship with that person. So where are you holding back? So when a friend hurts you, do you run away from the emotional work of offering forgiveness? Do you pretend like it never happened and just keep moving on? Oh, I used to do this a lot. And I used to say, oh, just move on. But sometimes you have to, all of the time, you have to, if you're really hurt, you have to sit down with it, especially with yourself, and look at and release and forgive. You need to give your forgiveness if you're going to be able to be a generous friend, because if you hold on to resentment, your other friendships will suffer. Now, forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation, and I always like to draw this out. Forgiveness means that you do not hold it against the person and you don't talk bad about them. You just release them. And it's important that you give forgiveness to your friends, especially if it's a mistake. In some instances, reconciliation is possible. But of course, the two people must want to build on from where they have stopped. If you're going to have to reconcile, it takes two people to be in a friendship and a relationship. One person cannot you can, if you continuously try to make that connection and you extend your forgiveness and it's not being received, then you've done what you need to do. You've given it. Holding on to resentment and buying the person gifts is not generosity. So, am I giving from an empty cup? You need to ask yourself, am I giving out of guilt, fear, rejection? Are you think that if you don't give, they will say, oh, let me do it before they say, let me do it before they say. Then this is inwardly. So outwardly now, who gets your undivided attention? Think about how you give yourself in the last few interactions you've had. Maybe do a bit of reflection with me. Think about how you gave yourself in your last few social interactions. Did you actually listen to them, or were you just waiting for them to finish, so that you could tell them what you have to tell them? Or, think about it. I mean, if you find out that you can't, of course, we are all humans and sometimes you might not be able to give your undivided attention. We are all working through it. But in a relationship, you can, if you find out that somebody is not giving you the attention, you can say, okay, should we, just talk about this some other time, and give them that opportunity to make space for you. Do my friendships have a balance? There are some questions. There's some videos I did last week about questions you need to ask yourself as we're going into H2. Are you the one always giving emotional availability, giving your money, giving your time? Remember, I gave you an example of my experience in the beginning. So identify one friend, and think about is there anybody that never gives me any practical aid and I'm the one always giving them anything? You need to reassess that, because you need to conserve that energy so that you can pour it into the relationships that are pointing to you. Yeah, because it is always reciprocal. It goes both ways. How do I handle a gap? If there's a gap in a relationship that you have noticed and you can see that it's not necessarily going well when it has to do with the reciprocity and the connection, how are you going to handle it? I would recommend talking about it. I've told you my proud moment story. There have been many more, but that was the beginning of many. This, you just know that this is not the standard that I want to tolerate. This is not the standard I want to give. Because people are quick to say standards, but they give the bare minimum. No, you need to give what you want to receive. So you need to have that conversation, especially a relationship that's important to you, and give them room to adjust. And of course, with discernment, you can now understand as time goes on if it is a one-time event or if it's a pattern. And if it's a pattern, then you have to decide if you want to accommodate that pattern in your life or not. So, if a friend is falling short in one area, have I communicated what I need, or am I resenting them silently? So generosity goes beyond just giving gifts. And I want to encourage us to be more generous. God gives us the grace to be generous. Think about it this way. This is what I tell myself. If God has given me everything and everything I have belongs to God, so I own nothing, that means I can lose nothing. It's very hard, but the more you come to that consciousness, the easier it is for you to give. And when people give you things, you also appreciate them and understand that God has used them to give you things. So you want to be a generous friend. So Acts of Friendship continues next week. We'll be looking at another key attribute. We've talked about intentionality. We've talked about generosity. Then you don't want to miss what we're going to be talking about next. So next week, I think next week is let me find out the date. Oops, sorry about that. I don't know what next week is. Anyway, today is 4th. So next week should be 12th, I think. So after next week, the week after will be our special anniversary edition. So I wonder what that's going to be. It might just be Acts of Friendship continued, but just want you to join us in prayer. Pray, for us, for our events coming up, and we'll see how that goes. Look out for content on YouTube and Instagram, and pray that God gives us the grace to continue to live generous lives to everyone that comes in contact with us. So have a beautiful weekend, and bye-bye. Love you all.